Hello everyone and welcome to Blue Tengu's live game development show where we show everything that goes into making a game from concept to completion. If you've ever wanted to make a game, we hope this will help lower the barrier to entry, maybe give you the nudge you needed to try it yourself. Even if you don't want to make a game, we hope you'll find some entertainment value in what we're doing here. All of the information about where you can find us is in the Twitch info down below or in our YouTube profile for those of you catching us later, but just in case, we're at www.bluetengu.com, btengu on Twitter, facebook.com Blue Tengu Studio. I think I've got an advertisement or something popping up here. Let me turn that off, because that would be very annoying. Let's see, what is going on here? Okay, I think I got it. Probably the Twitch feed. Let's see, where was I? Yes, also facebook.com Blue Tengu Studio, youtube.com Blue Tengu Studio for those of you watching the live stream, and Twitch TV Blue Tengu for those of you watching us on YouTube. If you missed any episodes, you can always catch them over at YouTube, but you shouldn't have any trouble following along even if you haven't seen them. For those of you who haven't seen the show on Twitch or YouTube before, my name's Eric. I'm a game designer living here in Japan who's trying to show you everything that goes into making a game for 2 hours a week, including all the ums and ahs and awkward debugging moments. And the reason I'm showing it all as opposed to making a game first and scripting out a rehearsed tutorial is because I do want to lower that barrier so many of us feel towards making a game, and I hope inspire you to stick with it yourself if you are making a game, or go out and try it if you haven't tried it yet. Bone Crusher jumps into the chat and asks what's on the agenda today, so I will jump to that right now and then come back and kind of explain a little bit more of what we're doing. But last week I did brush up the boss fight, making the boss more of a challenge than before, which admittedly wasn't very difficult because the boss before was basically shooting himself in the face. So he actually is a boss fight now, and I might have trouble beating him myself, even though I'm used to the system. This week, what I'm going to try to do is take on one of those reach tasks that I had on my list, which was day-night cycle. And it's not just a visual thing, it's going to be kind of a motivational factor for not shooting enemies right away if you want to score high points. The plan, I'll break it down later, but the plan is to basically have a day-night cycle where the enemies start out as they are now, but as the sun goes down or the moon goes down, in the case of the night levels, they start to get a little more tricky, a little more tough, but they're worth more points. But there's also a risk that if you let the sun go down all the way or the moon go down all the way, you get killed. So that's what I'm thinking right now. Gonna have to break that task down. It was a pretty big task, and it was a reach task, which means, you know, if I had time I would try to get to it, but I think it is actually important to making this game kind of click. And I think the main reason it is because right now you could theoretically, as soon as an enemy has its arrow flashing and appears on the screen, you could just try to spam bullets and kill it. Some enemies that works on, some it doesn't, but this will help balance it out a little bit. But thank you to everyone who dropped by last week, and to all of those who did watch the video on YouTube. We had a great chat going, and I hope we'll have another great one today. Thank you, Bone Crusher, for asking that question. And for those of you here with me on Twitch, like Bone Crusher, feel free to drop suggestions or ask me questions at any time. I may not be able to answer them right away because I am working. And if the chat gets going like it sometimes does, I might not be able to keep up, but I'll try to get to your questions. And if I can't, please send me a private message here, leave a comment on our site or YouTube video, or just send email to eric@bluetengu.com. That's Eric with a C. And I'll do my best to address it. If any of you are out there making something on your own and you don't mind showing it off, feel free to throw a link in the Twitch feed. I don't disable links or anything since no one's spammed me yet. Or you could send it to just me and I'll check it out. If you do post the link in the Twitch show, I may actually go to it during the show, so just be warned. If you don't want me to do that, then say don't do that. But at this time every week for 2 hours, I come onto Twitch TV to work on the game Project Spaghetti for Season 1, which is a top-down 2D cowboy shooter where the bullets fired bounce around the screen with a pinball mechanic. And like I just said, brushed up the boss last week, and this week I'm going to try to go for a day-night cycle, but I need to break down those tasks first. So let me jump over to, I think my desktop's okay, there we go. Let me jump over to Trello here. Boom. Trello.com is where I keep the task list. It is public, so you can just search Trello and Project Spaghetti and you'll come right here. In fact, in the past, I think PandaBits has voted on a few things, which is why I moved them up in the priority list, as if one of you guys wants it, and it's probably worth throwing in there. And this is the calling it a day stuff. Obviously, these tasks are very generic, so I'm going to have to break them down. But before I get to that, I should probably show where the game is at now, because I did make a few changes. Did fix a few minor issues, as well as one big thing, which is converted the frame rate from 30, which is the GameMaker default, to 60. Didn't even, for some reason in my head, I knew it was 30, but it's like I never clicked in me like, wait a minute, I should make this 60. That was a lot of work, obviously. Changing a frame rate in the middle of a project is a lot of work, but for the most part, I did design the code and scripting and stuff to get around that, so I didn't have to make too many changes. I think I have a comment with the stuff I did change. Yeah, just a few constants like move speed, animation speed, bullet-based speed, things like that I had to change, but for the most part it wasn't too bad because, I'm used to game projects and frame rates changing and stuff like that, so try not to hard code frames into it as much as possible. Also had to change timelines because you can't get around hard coding that in GameMaker. And there's also all these other debug tasks that I did as well, as well some of the polishing, like I did ghost, alien, and scorpion polishing. So you'll see those look a little different. Also animated the coins. So let me show you where I'm at now. So I do use GameMaker Studio, which is perfect for making 2D games. Just enough complexity to do it, and not overly complex. And there are professional games made with it. I do mention it every single time, but the original Spelunky, for example, and Tom Francis's Gunpoint are two good examples. But let me show you where I'm at now. Okay. Whoa, I don't want to have this full screen because then you guys can't see it. Let me try starting that again. Might have to adjust the volume on the game. I think last week it was a little too loud. Let me just double check. Yeah, okay, it was okay because sound effects volume was all the way to the right. So when I was editing the video, it's like later, it's like, wow, those bullets are really loud. So here we are. First stage is the tutorial, the most Western of the stages because there's cowboys and lots of dirt, barrels, things like that. It's a tutorial stage. I will skip over this one because most of the changes are in later stages. Did change the ghosts. If you've seen the ghosts until now, you know that they were rigid. There was only one sprite for them. But now I actually do have sprites for them moving in different directions so you can see where they're facing. Same thing with when they're chasing you. Also, their little ridges at the bottom kind of move a little bit there. Well, I should probably make myself invincible, because if I'm chatting while playing, it's going to make it a little tricky. Okay, invincibility on. There we go. So their little floaty things do actually float now, so they're animated. Not a big change. Also on the desert level here, added flies to the bones here, so there's a little bit more of animation on the bones. Also, the scorpions finally got to brushing them up, so they look a lot better, and they're animated as well. And there's the angry version, which chases you. And the aliens, like the ghosts, I did animate them so that they do face a direction now. They also blink, and their eye only gets big when they're firing the laser. Also, their shield flickers now, which is different. It actually feels more like a shield instead of just a sprite. And the snowman stage, there's not a lot different here yet. Probably be one of the next things I do brush up is the snowman. And there's the coin animation. So now they actually rotate around. And they rotate faster and faster before they disappear. Okay. And this is the boss fight from last week. I did move the barrels around so the boss didn't get stuck. And I think the boss, yeah, the boss was animated last week, so that's no different. But today, let's jump back to level 1 here. What I do want to do is somehow get a sun in here and actually have it go down. I probably don't want to have day and night within the same stage because there are like night focused stages like this one. So what I am planning on doing is have just a sun that starts at high noon, goes down, or a moon that starts at high noon and goes down, because certain stages are going to fit with sun, certain stages are going to fit with moon better, because there is already that kind of day-night thing going, like the alien stage is another night stage. So one thing I'm going to have to do is recognize that state and then start doing some graphics to compensate for it. Think, you know, there's 6 theoretical hours worth of tasks built in here, but that's only because time crunch was so vague. Didn't really have much going. There's a few comments in here like the music speeds up, double the points at night, things like that. Ideas I had. But I need to break these tasks down into something manageable. Like I said last week, probably not going to get it all done today because there's a lot to do to get that working. So I think today what I'll do is focus on the system stuff, actually getting, you know, the thing to change over time, you know, giving players more points towards the end, causing a game over state, etc. But I do need at least one graphic somewhere that'll tell me, you know, the progress of that. So what I could probably do is just throw just a temporary sun up there and drop it down. It's going to be in the foreground, so when it drops down, it's probably going to end up overlapping some of the game screen. Forgive me for that. It will be rough until I actually do the graphic stuff. The graphic stuff, still kind of thinking about it, because I don't want to just do things the easy way, because that could take a lot of extra memory. Because right now you saw the stages. Let's see, you saw the stages and how they are. Basically, well, let me pull it up in Photoshop because that'll probably be easier. Well, actually, no, let's show it in here. Like, for example, the town stage. This is the graphic I'm using for the town stage. Everything's connected, it's just one flat image. The easy way to do this would be to cut out along like the buildings and the ground and stuff and have that one layer, and have the background be another layer. It might not be too bad because there's not a whole lot of sky basically to worry about. So it would just be the sky part changing. Whether it scrolls, like you have the sun starts here and as it scrolls down, the sky gets darker as the sun scrolls down, or whether it's better to keep the sky as one sprite, the town as another sprite, and then kind of sandwich a sun object in there and use like image blending or something to change the colors as I go. Still kind of thinking about what's the best method. I'm thinking the latter method is probably the best method. There's other tricky things I could do to save even more memory, I suppose, like if I know that the sun is only going to be, for example, in the middle, or the moon is only going to be in the middle, I could theoretically only cut this part out and have like this bit of town and dirt be like one sprite and have this bit be another sprite, so that I can handle the change here without having to worry about like doing all this stuff. It'd be a way to save some memory, but is it really worth it logically? I don't know. But let's break those tasks down. First thing in the time crunch, let's think of system stuff. Time crunch, well, obviously there needs to be a counter somewhere that keeps track of time, so that's one thing to throw in there. That shouldn't take too long at all. Let's see, probably going to have to modify the enemies themselves. Whether that's better through the room manager or through the enemies themselves. Let's find out. That might be a little bit trickier. Enemies modified based on time. And Bone Crusher 2002 mentions for the transition from day to night you could use image alpha. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. This is going to be hard to do in Photoshop or Paintbrush. I should probably do this in Photoshop because it'll be easier. Let me pop it up and show you what Bone Crusher is talking about here. I could probably just even use the actual town background to show it. let's say, for example, I need to be careful not to let Photoshop go off screen here. So say, for example, I did break the sky and the dirt up. You know, I could theoretically have an extra sprite up here. Let's see, that. Try to get it good. That. Let's make sure the color actually looks like something nightish. You have like a nightish color here. That's right, I'm using a shade. Could have a night-ish color, like the final result is night, and basically started out at 0, so everything looks the same, and then use that GameMaker image alpha to slowly kind of add in night like that. You know, if you see it in Photoshop, it looks like it's getting darker and darker. Obviously, the color I chose is not very good for night, but that is probably what I am actually going to do for changing the color on the sky. So if there is a sky sprite, just obviously the buildings wouldn't change. Well, maybe they would, but just thinking about the sky itself, have that going on while there's a separate, you know, sun object coming down in here like this as it's dropping. And let me make sure I don't save that. And I'll keep Photoshop open because I might be using it. So yes, Bone Crusher, thank you for mentioning image alpha. I think that is the way to go in this case. So let's see, the enemy is modified based on time, so they have to get more aggressive, their stats have to go up a little more, they have to fire a little more often, and they have to be worth more points. So for points, I think I should handle that stuff within the actual score object, so that shouldn't be too difficult. Score, modify points based on time. That's another system thing that needs to be done. Let's see, one of the other things, because I don't have any background music playing right now, it's not going to show up for you guys probably, but let's see, BGM, modify pitch, not pitch. Maybe it is pitch. Alright, modify pitch based on, I'm trying to remember which things you could do in GameMaker. But modify pitch based on time so the music gets a little bit faster, or at least changes when night starts to come on, so that players feel like, yeah, alright, it's time to get going here. In terms of system stuff, maybe that's enough. So keeps track of time, the enemies get tougher. Score, also need to cause a game over. Game over when reaching the end of the time limit. So that's one more thing. That shouldn't be too difficult because it's not, you know, if the player dies, that obviously starts the game over, so I just have to do that same thing when the time crunch happens. Since these are all game design tasks, let's label them as such. Bone Crusher, by the way, you know, you drop by once in a while, but are you working on anything yourself? You've obviously worked in GameMaker before, so I'm just kind of curious if you are working in it now, or if it's if you're working in something else. But thank you for jumping in the chat and all of the hints. It's nice to have some people out there talking with me. That's time crunch. Let's see what else is inside of here. Music speeds up, double points. Light continues to shrink as the player runs out of time. This is something that I think I need to do if I dim the whole level, which I might do. If you've got the player here and the level's just getting darker and darker, the problem is, like the bullets and everything else, they kind of get lost in the darkness probably if I'm just throwing up a, you know, one kind of sheet over the whole thing that's making it darker and darker. So then what I have to do is kind of create cutout areas here around the player where they kind of look like they have a little bit of a glow around them. I think someone did have a tutorial up on YouTube about this as well. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think I have it bookmarked in my YouTube account, but someone did have a tutorial on this, like actually creating kind of a glow around the players so that you can see them in the dark. So probably have to do something like that so that the players don't, so that enemies don't turn actually invisible on the player, because that would be very frustrating. So before I forget to do that, let me put that in the list. I won't get to that today. I'm sure that's going to be a bit of a meaty task, and it's on its own, and it is a graphical thing. So objects, create glow at night. That should help me remember what that is. Okay. And Bone Crusher did get back to me and said you're working on a GameMaker game. Sadly, it's not in a functional state yet, but soon will be. That's good news. How do you like GameMaker, by the way? Obviously, if you're using it, you probably like it to some extent, but... Let's see, create glow at night. What else? Graphics-wise, need to actually have a sun. And a moon, I suppose. Moon. Sprite. To create the actual sprite shouldn't take that long. If I want to animate it, that'll take a little bit longer. Hard to think of how I would animate the moon. Have a mouse running around and eating cheese, I don't know. It's not going to be big enough for that. So let's see, let's divide this up into rough graphics and polished graphics. Just so that when I do get to this task, like next week, or maybe even today, for example, I just have to do something real rough. But to remember that I have to do something that actually looks good. Sprite, polished. Like I do for some of the other sprites. Polished graphics. Notice that I have a tendency to overestimate my graphics tasks and underestimate my game design tasks. So that's something I'll have to remember in the future. But just as I go through the list, it's like I'm kind of noticing I do that. Well, let me move these off to the side here. Let's see, these would come later. In fact, let's just move this off to the side so I don't have to think about it today. What else needs to happen? Need to break the town stuff up. Let's see, town, well, yeah, let's just work on the town first. So town, graphic, break sky from town itself. That's a graphics task, as well as a game design task, actually, because I need to display that inside of GameMaker as well. And so I remember to do it for the other ones as well. Let's see, there's graveyard, desert, UFO stage, snow stage. The ball stage is just the town stage. So that's 4 other ones. But I don't want to break those up until I've actually got polished graphics, so let me just make that a giant 3-hour task. Backgrounds, break sky from background. Okay. And even the town itself, I think I have to modify a few things with it, because some of the buildings are in just the wrong place, especially if I do want to have a sun kind of coming down. That one building is going to get in the way. Let's see, I'll show you. The Grim house is going to get in the way of that, so I'm going to have to kind of move things off to the side so you can see the sun actually sinking in the horizon. So this includes town, I guess. Let's put that in there. Actually, not rough graphics, but polished graphics. Okay. That's going to come much later. So let me move that after all of those polished things. Yes, level screen polished. Yeah, somewhere around here. Okay. Anything else I need to do? Background music, changing that. Time crunch. Sound, break the sky from the town. Modify the pitch. Yeah. In fact, since background music isn't going to make sense until there is actually background music in there, I'll pull this off. Just so I can focus on what needs to be done. Anything else that I have in my comments here? There's no shadows. I guess if I do shadows, I have to remember that, though. And I think I have that in here as something to do. Yeah, here we go, shadows. Based on time. I'll just leave that as a comment to myself. Anything else that I have in here? I will start at high noon midnight. Shadows lengthen, enemies speed up, worth more points. Okay, I think that's this task, so I'll throw it in the archive because I do have it covered with other tasks now. And day-night cycle, let's check my comments in here. Enemies get glowing eyes. Okay, well there we go. That would be tricky. Enemy players get light circles. Okay, there's the light circle thing. Coyote howls when the time shifts. Okay, well that's a sound task. I should probably throw that in. Sound effects. Coyote howl when time changes. It shouldn't take too long to do. Not a literal coyote howl, probably, but actually like a digitized voice one, because that's kind of the thing I'm going for. So let me throw that in here. That's probably not anything super high priority. Let's throw it in here. Anything else? Day-night cycle. Enemies get glowing eyes. I'll put it in the list. Because it is kind of important that the player knows that the enemy's behavior has changed, whether I do it through glowing eyes or not. I should probably actually not say glowing eyes. Look, visuals change? Visuals change when time crunch starts. And I need to do something simple because if I have to create another sprite for every enemy, that's kind of wasteful. Oop, I don't want a checklist. Okay. So it might actually be a game design thing, adding a blend or something like that. I'll have to think about that. That's actually pretty important because if the player doesn't see that the enemies are changing, then there's no... Why are they shooting faster, for example? It's not going to make any sense. The music might be a cue, but then again, not everyone can hear music. There are plenty of deaf people out there that play games, for example. So there we go. Let's see, what should we start with? I could get rid of this first of all. Okay, got rid of that. And let's get going. First thing, time crunch, counter that keeps track of time. That should be in the room manager. Like right now, the thing that controls when enemies spawn and all that stuff is the room manager. So it makes the most sense to probably keep all that time stuff in there. Like for example, the room manager is the thing that says, well, not here, but here, for example, at X seconds spawn this ghost. If there are no ghosts left, you win the stage, move to the next one. All that's handled within a room manager object that I've created, which is down in here. Not in actors, system, room manager. There we go. See, it has no sprite, it just kind of sits there as a system thing. So I do need a counter. Let's see. Trying to remember that I am going to have in the future a sun object that's coming down, which means there is an object for the sun. So would it make more sense to put time stuff in there? No, maybe not. It should just be a visual thing. So I will add the counter into room manager. There's two ways I could go with that. So let's see, got to keep track of the time. So time. Yeah, time's a special name, so I can't just say time. Room time? Stage time? Stage time. Started at 0. And that actually reminds me of another task I need to do. It shouldn't be too hard, but time crunch. Stop time for the tutorial. Because that'd be the worst if you're in the middle of the tutorial and time starts changing on you, because that would screw a lot of things up. So I need to remember to do that. That won't even be that hard, but the current time of day in game. Okay, let's see. What's the best way to do this? Either add to it every frame. Just one way to do it. Or set alarms. That would do it. Let's just add to it every frame for now and see if that's not going to be enough for me. So stage time. Let's do that at the end. +1. So now I theoretically have this counter. Increment time elapsed. And the other things I would need to do is actually change the state of enemies based on that. No, it would be a step thing. So let's see if maybe I'll put it all in a script. Handle time elapse events. Or let's just say time elapse events. Don't need to say handle. And in here's where I'm going to have all my ifs, I guess. So if stage time equals, and I'm going to have to make a constant so I can modify it for gameplay. So something like mid time or just time stage 1. So this will be like time stage 1, for example, will be the first time that the room's behavior is actually affected by the counter. So that'd probably be enemies getting a little faster and faster or shooting faster. So let's keep it small. I guess I should do it in terms of seconds, so because otherwise if I do change the room speed back to 30, then I'll have to change this as well. So let's see, in terms of seconds. For now, since I want to test it, I don't want to wait, 30 seconds for this thing to change every time I want to test it, so I'm going to make it really fast. So 5 seconds. Time stage 1, 5 seconds. Trigger events based on time elapsed. Time elapse event 1. There we go. And we'll keep that blank for now because that's a different task. If stage time equals time stage 2, which I have to add, then that. And the last one, we'll make that for now time stage end. I guess I should just do else ifs because they're not going to trigger at the same time, I hope. If I do my job right, they shouldn't. So time stage 2. Let's make that 10 seconds. And time stage end. Let's make that 15 seconds. So that's going to be the world's shortest stage. No player would be able to kill all the enemies in that time. Let's see, what else could I do? There's another consideration in that the enemies don't all come out right away. There is kind of a timer that brings them out. Seems kind of unfair to the player to have time elapsing and enemies getting tougher while their enemy's still appearing. For now, I'm not going to worry about it because otherwise it would take too long to test, but let me add that to the task list and just kind of keep track of it. Start timer when all enemies have appeared. That way there aren't, some stages that are tougher or whatever because I have more enemies spread out or anything. Makes sense. Keep it at high noon until all the enemies are there and then start dropping it, basically. So let's see. Game over when reaching the limit. Let's move that up and do that now because that's the easy one. Let's knock an easy thing out of the way first. Let's see. If the players kill all the enemies, that kind of does the game over thing, but let me look at player itself. When the player runs into a bullet, or I should say the bullet runs into the player, if they've got no lives, then it does this game over sequence. Alarm 2 is where all that happens. The player didn't actually die, so it's probably better to just do this for now. And worry about the other stuff later. In fact, what am I doing? Let's see. Go to room game over. So just go to room game over. Let me just look up what that is in script here. I think it's going to be room go to in GameMaker. Yep. I think. Let me just double check. Room go to room name. Yep. That's the same thing as that graphical thing here. And then destroy the instance. I don't need to worry about that because room manager handles that. So, go to room game over. Alright. That's easy enough. So jump back to room manager, jump back into that script. And when I get to time stage end, and go to game over. Room game over. Room. There we go. Okay, got it. That's the easy one. So I guess we should test to make sure that's working. Let's just see how it works. In 15 seconds, basically, I should just get a game over. That's the only thing that should happen. And Bonecrusher mentioned that there should be a new GameMaker update with a lot of improvements. Oh, that would be so nice. Yeah, there is some room for improvement. GameMaker did get purchased about a month or two ago by like a casino machine making company or something like that. So they're under new management. Good to hear that there's going to be a lot of improvements. Is there? Let's see. Let me check. View to kill. Upcoming stable release. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look, actually. Thank you for letting me know. I didn't even notice that, even though it was sitting right there in the GameMaker news. Let's see what it says. Oh, wow. That is big. Recommend a fresh install for moving to the stable. Okay. That's going to be a little work. Let's do that. ID fixes. A lot of stability fixes. Along the menu bar, some breakpoint stuff. Marketplace. Tools, major in-game fixes. Okay, I'll definitely have a look at that later because there's a lot of stuff that could affect me. And there might be things I've worked around in the past somehow, but thank you for letting me know. That's cool. But it will require a fresh install, so I'll have to worry about that. Alright, let's see what happens in 15 seconds. Assuming I can survive, I should turn invincibility on here. And I should have put some debug messages in here to know that this is actually working without having to wait 15 seconds. Because, oh, there we go. Okay. Well, I do have to destroy the player, I guess, but there we go. After 15 seconds, it gets to a game over. That's the basic stuff, but as you can see, there's some problems here. So, let's see. Got to destroy the player first off. That's one thing. Let's see, what was it? Object destroy, instance destroy. always have to... Oops. I think I'm typing all this stuff off screen. I need to stop doing that. I'll just destroy... Oh, I have to do player. Okay, with player. Instance destroy. Okay, that'll destroy the player. Anything else I need to do? Just wondering about that score stuff in the upper right of the screen. And I should make it even less than 15 seconds if I'm just testing this stuff. Okay, yeah, getting rid of the player got rid of that too, so that's good. And it continues as it should. One thing I should do, I guess, is whenever the room starts, I should probably reset that stage time. As well as when the room ends, too, just to be on the safe side. Let's see, where should I do this? I should make sure it looks as close to this as possible. Room jump to false. Alright, where do I have room jump? Nowhere. Okay, well, let's put it in here then. Because there's always the risk that I'm not resetting this counter, so that time-elapse stuff could only work on one stage. Reset the time-elapse counter. And probably also stop the time-elapse counter. Let's do that here. It's probably not a big deal, but well, it should be okay. Because I'm not going to go into a step after this. We'll see. If there's something buggy about it, I'm sure this will be why. So we've got the game over thing working after 15 seconds. That's fine. That was easy. Counter that keeps track of time. Yeah, that's working. Game over when reaching the time limit. That works. And enemies modified based on time. Let's do the score one first, since that'll be easier. Let me also add a few debug messages so I can actually see time elapsing here. Show debug message. Room manager. Plus. Oh, I don't need to do this. Time stage 1. Time stage 2. And the reason I'm doing 1, 2, and end is in case I do want more steps in there. I don't think I will, but just in case. Because I can imagine that you'd want a stage where the enemies get faster and they're worth more points. And then you probably want that last minute stage where it's like, you are about to die. You need to hurry up and kill enemies. So there's probably like those two stages. There might be a third one in between. We'll see. Whatever makes the most logical sense is the one we should go with. So room manager, time stage 1, 2, and end. Get my debug messages in there. And let's check out the score stuff. Let's see, all that's handled within UI. Enemy score. So when you kill an enemy, it creates this enemy score object to handle spawning the coins, displaying that flashing score thing. So let's see, room ends, creates. So there needs to be a daytime multiplier, or a time multiplier. What is this? ES multiplier. That's from the enemy itself, based on the bullet. Like if the bullet is going slow, it's only worth 1 times the amount of points. If it's going like super fast, it's worth 5 times the amount of points. If it explodes, it's worth 10 times the amount of points. So that's that. So I guess I do I need a global? No, I don't think I need a global. Let's put it in here, stage time. Well, I do know room manager stage time, but that doesn't help me with this. Time, room, time point multiplier, elapse multiplier. Well, let's do 1.5 and 2.0, and we'll reset it here just in case. So I need to have this variable somewhere. Room elapse multiplier. Better than creating a global variable for everything. Makes more sense to have it inside of room manager. So ordinarily this is 1, so you get the normal amount of points. The point multiplier based on time elapse. Actually, let me change this name to also have RM in front so I know what it is. RM stage time. RM stage time, RM stage time, just so I know that it's a room variable if I access it somewhere else. Helps me avoid a few mistakes. And I need to do that here too. RM stage time. And also reset the multiplier here. So now I have RM elapse multiplier to work with in the calculation. Okay, global base score plus ES score. ES score is set by the enemy. So I need to do that here. Plus ES score. It's times room manager dot RM elapse multiplier, I think I called it. Okay, that's base score. Okay, I don't need to do it here. My bad. I need to do it here. Because for stat tracking purposes, I do keep track of the base score, like the result screen at the end of every level. Let me show that. Before I start modifying anything, I'll show you why I keep track of the base scores. Oops. Okay, well, I guess I need to fix that. Step. Forgot to change that to RM. RM. Let's see if I can get to a stage where I can kill all the enemies before 15 seconds is up. The boss stage would be a good one. And what I'm going to use is my handy-dandy explosion thing, if I can remember which key it is. Oops, that's not it. There we go, 9. Yeah, I didn't get it in time. Trying to kill the boss before 15 seconds may not work. Nah, it didn't work. Alright, let me turn that time off then. Alright, let's disable that. Time stage end. Let's make it something huge, like 60. 1 minute. And then get started here. Hopefully it didn't save that gigantic screen. Do still want to do the boss stage. Yeah, I'm just hitting the F9 key basically. It explodes in coins, I grab them all. Okay. And there you can see base score 5,000 up there. That's why I keep track of base score, just to be able to show players that. You know, if they wouldn't have done anything special with bullets or time or anything else, this is the score they would have gotten. So let's get back to what I was doing. Alarm 1. So this is where I need to add that room multiplier in. ES score times ES multiplier. Also times RM for the room manager. Room manager dot RM elapse multiplier. And same with the coins, score equals that times room manager RM elapse multiplier. Okay. That should work. Hard to test it. Let's see, what's the easiest way to test it? I guess make sure that I'm in time number 2 and kill an enemy with just a regular bullet. That's probably the only way I can test that. So let's see, let's go into here. Yeah, Ghost will work. Give myself invincibility. So Ghost is normally worth 300. So we're in time stage 2 now. 1 times 300. Okay, that's... I need to do an enemy that I understand the points on a little better. Okay, so those guys are definitely worth 100. Get to time stage 2. I accidentally shot him with a super bullet, so that's no good. One times 200, 3 times 100. Yeah, something's a little fishy. I don't think I'm doing things quite right. ES multiplier times 1. Because it's probably the stuff that I'm drawing here. So it's drawing that multiplier times. Yeah, this one's kind of interesting because I kind of want to show the multiplier effect of the bullets so that it's clear to the player. If I have too many multipliers going on there, the player might not really understand the scoring system. For now, I'm going to do something a little weird. Room manager. RM. Actually, that's not going to work, is it? Yeah, I need to copy that room manager variable into something in here, because time's still elapsing as the room manager is doing its thing. So while that score is flashing on the screen, the multiplier might go from 2 to 3, for example, and that's no good. So I do need to do one thing in here. And create another variable here. That is ES elapse multiplier. Set that to 1 by default. And I need to change this inside of room manager. Or what I could do is not do that. Room. When I create it, might as well set it. Room elapse multiplier. That way it stays the same. And I should probably do that stuff in here too. Otherwise it's going to get really weird. Okay, now I should be able to display the proper score. This is going to look really weird, but at least it'll give me the information I need. Plus times plus, okay. With the display as it's going to be really weird because it's going to require 2 multiplications on the points, but bear with me. It's good for debugging. Invincibility on, and yeah, 1.5. Since I already reached time stage 1, I got to the 1.5 multiplier. Now I'm in time stage 2, so it's 2 times 1 times 100. So as you can see, that's that's a ridiculous display, which is not going to be very good for the player. Let's see, what else can I do? What I could do to avoid this weird like multiplier thing, like what is this 2 times 1, or if I put 2 there, what does that mean? Is I could modify the actual enemy's base score. As I do that, that might actually make more sense, because it's not really a multiplier, so I think I'm going to have to do that. I'll show you what I mean with a little paintbrush if I can. So there's 2 options. There's this room multiplier up here. There's an enemy base score here. There's the bullet thing. Yeesh. Can't write with the mouse. There's the bullet thing, so if it's, you know, the little cyan colored bullet, it's worth, you know, 2 times as much. And the number of coins you get is based on that, as well as that flashing score text. Given that the enemy itself is going to be harder when it's at night or when day is running out, it makes sense that to treat it kind of like a different enemy. So if a normal bad cowboy is worth, you know, 100 points, but he becomes stronger at night, it might be worth just modifying this. So then when you see the display, it'll be 2 times 200. It makes more sense. I think that will actually click for players better. So let's get rid of all this stuff from enemy score. That's not the place to have it. Everything back to where it was. I'm missing one thing, create coins, yeah. Okay. So I need to do it with the enemies. With the enemies, what should I do? This should be a step thing, right? So that kind of forces me to go into the next task here. These are gonna end up being a set. So this is kind of included in this task now. Enemies modified based on time. What's the most efficient way to do that? Because I don't think I want to be testing every frame for time stuff. But I think I have to with each enemy. Unless I can trigger something else. Like, could the room manager do it for me? Well, let's figure out what stats I would be changing, I guess. Enemy creates, let's look at that. Because that might determine how I go about this. So the kind of things I can change are the maximum range they shoot at, for example. Like, for example, the green cowboys tend to shoot farther to try and hit the player. Could also up their shoot delay. Could up their speed. Let's keep track of this stuff. Range, speed. Obviously base score needs to go up. Hold distance. That's not really a difficulty thing. Dodge weight has to go down. Goes down. Goes up. Speed goes up. Range goes up. Cooldown, shoot frequency would go up. Shoot cooldown goes down. Shoot weight, I guess. Shoot weight goes down. That's how long they wait when they hold up their gun before they actually fire the bullet. That's that delay. So it's a little bit different from shoot cooldown. Target lead. That would be kind of confusing to the player, I think, if I change that one, because what I do with that is, it's been a while since explaining that one. What I do with that is, you've got the enemy, the player's moving this way, for example. The most vanilla enemies just shoot it where the player was when they fire their bullet. The green enemies try to anticipate where the player is going to be and shoot a little ahead, which is why the green enemies are stronger. But I think it will confuse the player if suddenly red enemies are giving them a little bit of lead, because it just, I don't know. It's one of those subtle things that's probably not going to make sense, and it's going to end up just killing players, and they're just going to not understand why they're dying. So I think I'll leave that one alone. Range, I think I should leave that one alone too, because that's kind of a basic behavior. I think speed going up, dodging getting faster, frequency getting faster, those are all going to kind of make sense if the enemy looks like they've changed to a powered up, Super Saiyan version of themselves. So let's write down these variables actually. And I have to worry about different things for other enemies like ghosts and whatnot. So EM base speed, BC base score, EM dodge weight, EM shoot frequency, EM shoot cooldown, EM shoot weight. Okay, so those are the variables I do need to work with. Okay. Since diving into actually fixing the enemy is going to be a bit of a task, what I am going to do is I am going to take a quick break because I need to recharge my voice with a little water. It's allergy season in Japan right now, which means my voice dies that much faster because I'm doing the best I can with the body I've been given. But my body has, billions of allergies, allergic to about everything, so I have to kind of deal with that. So I'll wet my voice down, and I'm going to take a break, which, for those of you guys who've seen the show before, you know what that means. It means there's going to be an animated short that lasts around, 5 to 6 minutes before I come back. For those of you watching this later on YouTube, that's the thing that comes at the very beginning of the video that I have added a skip option for those of you who aren't interested in it. Unfortunately for the live show, because I am taking a real break, you guys can't skip over it, but I will be back in about 5 or 6 minutes. The thing I was kind of worried about was inside of enemy, if for every enemy I had to keep kind of checking and updating their stats based on the time, whether that's efficient or whether it's better to do it somewhere else. I'm thinking it's going to be better to do it somewhere else, because otherwise every single enemy object is going to be constantly checking the time every step. That seems like a bit of a hassle in terms of processing time. So I think it is better to try and update the enemies from Room Manager, where all the time stuff is being handled. Because I'm already checking time every step here, but at least I'm only doing it once in one object. And it's already doing this stuff where, change the elapsed multiplier to this, for example. So let's try it in here. Some of the things I do need to modify. I think these are the stats that I can modify, at least for the cowboys. Scorpions, ghosts, I'm going to have to think about something else. Aliens, I'm going to have to think about something else. But for the basic cowboy, these are the things I think I can change. I can make them faster, worth more points, make them dodge more often, shoot more often, and fire faster after they pull their gun up, just to make them feel a little bit quicker and more dangerous. Visually, I'm not going to change. I'm probably not going to be able to get to changing this episode. That'll probably be next week. But if the player can see that they've visually changed, I think they can expect. So let's just try this. Enemy EM base speed. So when I use enemy in GameMaker, for example, inside of script, it just means every enemy object. So if I've got 4 enemies, then all of them are going to get affected by this. It is a parent object, so any enemy that uses this as its base, for example, even scorpions and ghosts, I think do keep enemy as their parent. It should change all of them. Enemy EM base speed times, I guess since I do want to debug this, let's make it something ridiculous. Let's make it ridiculous. ×2, let's double their speed. And base score. Enemy base score. Ah, 1.5. Let's not give the player too many extra points. EM dodge weight. In fact, let me just pop these over there. Make it easy. And Pandavits does mention Tales of Vesperia is probably a good one for multiple sessions because dungeons aren't long and the story is fairly point-based, so you won't get lost. And also there are synopsis things you can read. Okay. Yeah, that's the big thing. I guess as long as I don't get lost in the system. The last JRPG I did play, I mean, I mentioned it to Pandavits, I think, but the last JRPG I did play was Final Fantasy 13. It wasn't really my thing. I've kind of fallen out with JRPGs in general, but I have enjoyed them in the past, like when the Xbox 360 came out. Did enjoy quite a few games that I talked about with Pandavits as well. You know, had some interesting ones on there, like Lost Odyssey, for example, was one I really, really liked. The game itself, alright, it's pretty standard JRPG, but the thing they were going for kind of really good, like, Highlander vibe going to it, so that was right up my alley because I'm a Highlander nut. Dodge weight needs to go down, actually, so 0.75. And even Blue Dragon, I had fun with that. I've never liked any of the what is it? Why am I blanking on it? I'm probably thinking of the wrong title here. Dragon Quest. The other, you know, the Enix side of the Square Enix, I guess. Never could get into those games, but Blue Dragon for some reason hit a sweet spot for me. And also mentioned Trusty Bell, which was awesome because it had you know, this beautiful world based on like someone's imagination. Oh, Chopin. Based on that, so that was such a weird direction to go that it was awesome that someone actually, you know, at a professional studio somewhere where their goal is to make money actually said, let's make an RPG based on Chopin. So I've got to give them respect for that. And the game itself wasn't too bad, it was kind of fun. ×0.75. I could have just done this, I guess, because it is script. Let's keep it simple. Get too used to the UI stuff, and then I start to do this. Okay, so it just means, all this means is the exact same thing that was written there. EM base speed times itself ×2, or equals itself ×2. May not even need an elapsed multiplier variable anymore. Let's just see how this works. And let's make it even more ridiculous for time stage 2. And NeoZoom drops by. What's up, NeoZoom? How are things going? Are you working on anything? If you're working on any games, you know, let me know. Hope you're doing good. Thank you for dropping by, though. Right now, working on day-night cycles. Just the system side, though, so there's nothing visually to show that things are changing. Let's see, I gotta be careful about this, because I've already multiplied it once. So, actually, since I've already multiplied it once, let's not go crazy. Let's just do the exact same thing again. Alright, let's just see what happens. If this works, in the game itself, the enemies should get faster after about 5 seconds. And they should be quite dangerous. Let me do this. Let me get the debug display out of the way and turn on invincibility. So already, yeah, the enemies are getting faster. Now they're ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I want to have that much of a multiplier on it, but as expected. But just for debugging purposes, wanted to make sure that as time elapsed, things did change. And just so you know, the time elapse right now for debugging purposes is set really low. Obviously, don't want to just change enemies after 5 seconds because that's almost meaningless. It'd probably be more like 30 seconds or 60 seconds or something, and then wait another 60 seconds to change them again. But right now, not worrying about that. Yeah, PandaBits mentions a slight increase. And Neozim mentions have you got a bit more into GML code? Just the usual amount of scripting, I suppose. Still kind of relying on the UI. I do like it for most things, but do use code for the most part now. And let's see, I guess the first thing to do would be to make those values more reasonable. Because right now they're ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Let's see. Base speed times 2. The smallest little increases, 1.2 means add 20%, so that's quite a bit of speed. Even then. 1.25 base score. Base score times 1.5. Let's see. I gotta think about the math on this one here. Let me bring up Notepad. Well, Paintbrush will be fine. So if I've got 100 and I do 1.5, that brings it up to 150. Probably the next thing I would want to do is make it 200. But since it's already 150, need to divide by 1.5, multiply by 2. That equals 4, 3. Okay. Let's rely on technology. It's not a very good number. You know what? I think for base score, doubling seems pretty extreme. Alright, well, let's do it this way then. Let's just do it like that. Times 2 divided by 1.5. Just to get that 1.5 out of the way before adding the double. We'll see what happens. I hope the floating point doesn't break down because of this. We'll see. Because the last thing I want to do is give the player some weird score. Yeah, what should I do? Multiplier seems a little weird. Let's do plus on this one. Because I don't want to end up with floating point scores. So let's just add 50 points there. I mean, I guess I could round and all that, but I don't know. That's not too cool. And let's see what some of the other things. The shoot frequency is probably a little too high. Let's just do 1.2. 1.2. Keep everything simple. 1.2. 0.75. Let's just keep it just a little bit. 8.5. Because I don't want to make the enemies ridiculous when suddenly the sun starts going down. Just a little bit. Shoot frequency times 1.5. Times 1.5. Because these multipliers are cumulative too. Shoot cooldown 8.5. Shoot weight 8.5. It just should feel like they're a little tougher. And let's see, what else do we have here? I need to catch up to the chat a little bit. PandaBit says, see what you need to do next is get exponential increases. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was doing with like every time it adds 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 with the steps. I need to be careful about that. And Neozim mentions those values are meant to be never changed, right? Oh, whoops, I'm missing something. Be careful with using macros. Am I using macros in here? No, I think I'm okay. Yeah, the values in macros are never meant to be changed. So yeah, I'm not doing anything with macros here. These are based on macros, like enemy.em base speed is equal to like something up here. Base speed BL base speed, not BL base speed, EM base speed. Player base speed, or just speed, base speed. Yeah, base speed. There's a stat in here for like speed. So I make the initial value based on that, but I do store that in a variable after that. So I'm modifying the variables. I shouldn't be modifying any constants, or macros, I guess as they're called in GameMaker. I should be okay. And PandaBits mentions by the 6th second, the enemies should move so quickly they can't be registered on a standard 60 hertz monitor. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm sure the physics and collisions and everything would break down. Bullets are probably flying right through enemies and everything else. And PandaBits does mention if you want to give them weird points, you can always determine a way to assign points based off a selection of digits from the value of pi. That's an idea. pi divided by something. And NeoZim says, okay. Yeah, I think I should be okay. I'm not trying to modify any macros. But if you do spot me trying to do that, let me know. Because I do tend to make mistakes like that. Let's see how these guys are. Yeah, NeoZim does say there's such a delay between talking and streaming. Yet the same thing for me too, like seeing your guys' chat and where I'm at now. There's always going to be this kind of weird echo thing going on. For those of you guys who are just tuning in, when you do see this Room Manager time stage 1, that means it's going to that first stage. Time stage 2 means it's going to the second stage. Might be a little small depending on your monitor, but that is there in the debug display, so that's when the enemies are getting faster and shooting more. Oops. I need to restart. Paused at a bad time. And Bone Crusher mentions your streams are about 6 to 7 minutes behind. Wow. Okay, well, yeah, I don't feel as bad now. Because I'm over here in Japan, so the Twitch server I was using before, I think, was the Singapore server, and now I'm using the Hong Kong server. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah. Yeah, the enemies are definitely firing a lot more now. They are faster. I'm sure the green guy is going to be a beast at the moment. Yeah. Okay, everyone is successfully stronger. 2 times 100 though. Doesn't look like their points have gone up. 1 times 200. 1 times 200. Why is that happening? I think it must be because the enemy stuff. Okay. Room Manager step. Yeah, why is that happening actually? Because I'm doing it all in Room Manager, so it shouldn't be a problem. What went wrong is the speed and stuff seemed to go up, but the score didn't seem to go up. BC base score, for example, didn't seem to go up. It was still like something times 100, for example. Enemy BC base score plus equals that. Why would that happen? If they run into a bullet, yeah, BC space score times global point multiplier. Interesting. I wonder why that is happening. Because theoretically this BC base score should be 150 by the first step and then 200 by the next step. And then that's what should be displaying in that flashing text. Let me just try one more time. And the reason I switch back and forth between the stages is just so I can skip past the tutorial. So this guy should theoretically be worth 150 points. Okay, well, he should have fine for that one. What's different? What is different? Oh, well. Let me turn on invincibility here so I don't kill myself. Still 150, though. Now they're down to 100. So they were working for one stage and then not another. That is the weirdest thing ever. Alright, let me see. What am I doing here? Plus 50, plus equals 50. And I don't have anything else that's being triggered that would set it back, I don't think. RM elapse multiplier is 1. Interesting. And Pandavit said he'll be a beast destroyed by friendly fire. Yeah, they get a little zealous with the guns, so they tend to kill each other faster as well. I guess they're worried about nighttime falling too. I guess the only way to kind of do this is just to throw some debug code out there. So let's do that. Just so I can see what's going on here. This is going to be awful, by the way, for that debug stream, because every step it's going to show this, but let's just do it. BC base score. And I need to convert that to a string, which I forget to do every single time, except this time. Okay. Once there are multiple enemies out there, this is going to go crazy, but just to see if there's some point where that BC space base score drops back down. Alright. First enemy shows up. Alright, it's just scrolling 100 for now. Now it's 150. Okay, got it. Got it. There's the problem with doing it inside of Room Manager. Here's the problem. This is going to make things more tricky. Here's the problem. The enemy, by changing the enemies that are on the screen, yes, it's fine. They get BC base score of 150 or whatever. I won't write it all out. So for example, if they show up late, or if they've been there the whole time, they eventually get 200. The problem is new enemies coming on are just getting created. So they're getting created with that original base score, which means the original enemies that showed up are getting faster, shooting faster, have higher points, but enemies that show up after the time change are back to normal enemies. So doing it inside of Room Manager might not be the way to go. Well, maybe updating in Room Manager is the way to go, but in creation I have to do something extra for the enemies. Yep. Okay. That's unfortunate. This is going to get complicated. It'd be nice to keep it as simple as possible if there's a better way to do this, but so when an enemy is created, they have to keep track of the time for that enemy thing. What's a good way to do this? Should I do it inside of script enemy create? Is there any way to do it here? Because otherwise I would have to store all of these multipliers, which I guess is alright. Yeah, I think it does have to go into the enemy creation. Alright, let's make these constants so that I'm using the same numbers in every place no matter what I do. Time, speed, multiplier, 1. Times, well, yeah, alright, multiplier 2. Messy. It's very messy. If I think of a better way to do this, I will. Oops. Times speed. Well, this is off screen, so you guys can't see it. Let me bring it up. Multiplier. If I can type. Multiplier 2. Make that 1.2 as well. Time score. add 150. Just in case in the future I don't want to use the same multiplier for both, or the same add for both. Time dodge multiplier. Step 1, which is 0.85. Dodge multiplier to 0.85 as well right now. Time frequency. Getting kind of long names here, but better than not knowing what they are months down the line. 1.15. Typing in all caps is not easy. But I do all caps to make sure I know this is a constant, because like Neozone mentioned, you can't change constants after the fact, so you need to make sure that those are uppercase so that you know this is fixed, this is not a variable. Shoot, cool, multiplier. 1, 0.85. Time shoots cool multiplier 2, 0.85. Time shoot wait multiplier. So you can see why I didn't want to do it this way. It's a lot of extra constants. Multiplier 2 and 0.5. Okay, now I just have to remember what all these are. Let's start with time speed multiplier. So when the enemy gets created, you need to keep track of that. This is not the best way to do this, I'm sure. This may be one of those things where during the week I'll have an epiphany and just do things a much simpler way. Start shooting delay. So EM base speed. So switch RM manager dot, what was it, RM lapse time or something like that. I'm an old man, so it's hard to remember all the variable names here. Stage time, RM stage time, RM elapsed multiplier. Let's just go with 2. Let's go with 1. Elapse. In fact, I don't need this multiplier anymore, so let's call it something else that makes more sense. Let's make the default 0. So elapse stage. Make the default 0, so it starts at stage 0. And I think I'm also doing it at rem start. Elapse stage, set that to 0. Okay, so now I can use a switch statement based on that. Remember it by the time I get back to the script here. Okay, so if it's 1, oops, what am I doing? Forgetting how to use a switch statement. Case 1. Case 1. Default break. Okay. In this case, EM base speed equals move speed times 0.5. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is going to be tricky because a lot of these variables are overridden by the children. This is one of those things I think I'm going to have to think about a little more. For now, let's get the system working. For just enemies that get spawned in, because I think it's going to require a whole lot of extra variables and everything else. So let's just keep things simple for now. I'll give myself a note here on the Trello task list. And we'll call it a bug, because it's not really a bug because we know what's going on, but debug fix, let's just call it a fix. After the time shift. Bar. Min, max, average FPS, minimum of minus 64. Where's that coming from? Yeah, sorry, PandaBits. I'm not sure what you mean by min-max average FPS, minimum of minus 64. Is that something here, or is it actually something on your side? Let's see. Room manager, enemy score, enemy. All right, let's get rid of that horrible debug message first off. Let's just get rid of that so it doesn't show up every time, because we know the problem. Or back to basics. Okay, so fix enemies created after time shift or back to basics. That's not a good thing. But enemies created before that. Actually, what am I doing? Okay. This is actually okay, as it is. This is actually okay as it is. Oh, big smile on my face. Here we go. Here's why. It's a task that shows up later, but from the beginning I was only planning to only have the time start to count down once all of the enemies were on the screen. So I don't have to worry about enemies being created after the fact. Oh, okay. There we go. If I fix this, it'll fix the problem. So that saves me a whole lot of hassle. Yes, I'll delete that card. I don't want to ever see that one again. I don't want to think about that ever again. Okay. So enemies modified based on time. That is working. Let me just try it one more time with the new stats. And PandaBits mentions on the compile. Okay, the compile, min FPS, max FPS, average FPX. Okay, yeah, there we go. Minus 61. 3,355. Average 1,859. I assume the minimum thing is just something before it even shows up. It's just getting a wrong number. That must be... I'm not sure what that is. Why it's giving me that. 3,355 is pretty awesome. That would be smooth as butter. But let me just see how the enemies are. So just going to worry about it for the enemies that start in the beginning and see how they are, how they play out. Yeah, sorry for that false alarm. I don't have to do anything, really, to worry about enemies after the fact. So, now it's time stage 2. He's a little faster. There we go. Now he should be at his fastest speed. So in a way, like the red enemies at this point in time are kind of behaving like green enemies because they're faster, they shoot more often, etc. They do tend to shoot each other quite a bit, which is not too good. In fact, it almost looks like they're gunning for each other. Interesting. Let me just see how the other enemies work too, if the ghosts are speeding up. With the ghost, probably the thing I could change is how long they pursue the player. Because, you know, when the bell rings, they turn red until the bell stops ringing. And again, that wouldn't make much sense. So it's probably just the pursuit speed that I need to pick up a little bit for the ghost. So let me make a note of that. So in here, the ghost, 3,000. base speed needs to go up, and the ghost pursuit speed needs to go up too with time. The scorpion's going to work the exact same way. Base speed and pursuit speed. With the alien, it should be probably their laser firing frequency. And also how fast their shields come back. Shield recovery. Delay. Those are the two things I could change for the alien when the time comes. And Cirrus mentions butter. I almost feel like there might be another pizza or focaccia talk coming on. Pandavits, are you making anything right now for dinner? Starting to get a little hungry here. Just even seeing the word butter triggered that. Snowman. Snowman. Okay, here we go. I guess it's going to be kind of similar to the scorpion. Yeah, Pandavits. Already, before I even mentioned it, snowmen. Yeah, make headless snowmen even faster. That is probably the way to go. Yeah, so Pandavits has been with us for a long time, so you probably know the stages even better than I do at this point. So you knew the snowman issue was coming. When they pursue the player, they are quite fast. So might be able to slow that down. Their base speed is faster, so they're actually already pursuing the player faster. That's right now there's no getting away from that guy. So it might be a little too fast, but I guess the snowman is okay, as is, because the base speed is being used to calculate everything else. Maybe the aliens are that way too, let me check. And Pandavits mentions, of course I have pizza in the oven. Yes, you can always rely on Pandavits to have something good cooking. So let's see, this enemy is getting faster. The enemies that showed up now are just going to be normal enemies. I just have to remember this guy is the special one. Yeah, so the shield recovery delay is probably the only thing that needs to kind of get added for the aliens. Snowmen, it seems like they are faster already, so that should be okay. The boss is basically a bad cowboy variant, so he should be okay. In fact, let's just see what he looks like in stage 2. I'm sure it's ridiculous. Yeah, he's much faster. He can't dodge any more than he already is, so that's not a big difference, but that's fine. Okay, let's see. The thing that didn't seem to change too much was the ghost. EM base speed is equal to that, so it does have an EM base speed. EM speed. Okay. The ghost has an EM speed, which is overriding base speed. I don't think the other enemies do that, do they? No. Okay, that's why the ghost wasn't speeding up, because the ghost overrides base speed. So actually, if anything, I should make all the enemies have a speed and work with that. Yeah, alright, let's do that. Enemy, that's gonna be a lot of work. It's gonna be honestly a lot of work. Well, for now, what I will do is inside of enemy creates. For the enemies that don't use it, no big deal. I'll do that. Just so the variable exists for when I multiply it. Because I just want to get the ghosts going faster. I do need to make everyone use speed in the end, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Where's my room manager? There it is. Step. So that's one more thing I do have to modify in here. Actually, I could just do this. EM speed times equals 1.2. There we go. because I know if it's a ghost, it's always going to have the EM speed variable, so that's fine. That's how I'll do it. Okay. And Cirrus mentioned nice lasers. Yes, the lasers, that's right. That was a change, actually. Now that you mention it, the lasers fluctuate now. So they look a little bit different than they did from last week. So just to show you, let me turn invincibility on so I don't die while I catch up with the chat here. And Pandavits mentions the unstoppable boss. Unable to find. Oh, well, there we go. I need to check if that instance exists. Always something. Always something. Here we go. Issues within issues. If instance, I think it's instance exists. Yes. Okay. Ghost equals true. And do that. In fact, I should actually be safe on the safe side and do this with enemy too. Because there could be situations where the player kills the last enemy and the time's still running down. In which case it'll crash just like it did now. Boom, 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 boom. It's a practice I don't do enough, but it's actually really good practice in GameMaker language to always check for instance exists when you're going to reference something outside of whatever you're doing now, because you never really can be 100% sure that something like that exists when you're trying to use it. But Pandabits mentioned with the boss, yes, now that the boss is even harder, he's unstoppable, a Tengu of impossible strength. Only mentioned through illusions and whispers in the Kojiki. They call him Big Nose McGillicuddy. That's actually an awesome name for the boss. Let me write that down. Big Nose. Let me make sure I get my spell right here. McGillicuddy, yes. Let me save this. If the boss ends up being called that, you have Pandabits to thank. That's actually an awesome name. Thank you. And Bone Crusher mentioned that your cat just stepped on the keyboard and deleted 100 lines of code from script. Oh man. Oh, I could just imagine, like, if you saw this. Oh, this is easy to reproduce, but if this was script that I'd written like 6 months ago and lines 1 through, I don't even have 100. So if double this amount of script just suddenly disappeared because of my cat, that would be a lot of work to bring it back. Oh man, I feel bad for you. My heart goes out to you. Though I do love cats. They do tend to have a tendency, well, they tend to walk on keyboards at the worst possible time. They love walking on keyboards. I think it's probably just the feedback from the keys. If you own a cat, you'll know exactly what Bone Crusher is talking about. Let's see, that should handle that ghost thing. Oh, what was I about to do? Show you the lasers, yes, before it crashed on me here. So, yeah, let me invincibility on. So I did update the lasers. Also, the aliens and the scorpions do have animation and everything now. But the lasers actually kind of flicker a little bit now. Did that. Also, their shields, when they're coming back on, they flicker a little bit. So it got a little bit more of a lasery feel to it, a little more of an energy feel to it, because energy just doesn't stay static, it just flickers. If you have a light bulb, obviously it feels like it's staying the same, but there's just tiny little variants. But that's going way off track. So, time crunch, start timer when all enemies have appeared. That's actually pretty important. But I need to change the alien stuff here, what I was about to do. When the shield goes down. Drop shield. Okay, so right now I'm just using alien weak time, which is a constant. So I need to make a variable for this inside of the alien. If I want to modify it, this goes back to what Zoom was mentioning. Zoom was mentioning about constants and not being able to change them. Week time. Just so I'm calling it the same thing. So by default, I'll set it to that. And, okay. So by default, I'll set it to that. And then I just have to replace week time where I was with em week time. So now I can modify this for aliens. There's one other thing in here I could change, which is sweep speed, sweep delay. Well, before I forget, let's put this into Rim Manager first. So again, I have to make sure that there are aliens before I do this thing. I need to have an N in there. Times equals 0.85, which seems to be what I'm going for in general. So now I can modify that. And what's the other thing? 3, alien sweep delay. So here's the thing, the alien starts to charge the laser, and then after a certain delay it starts to sweep the laser, so I could change the sweep speed, and then I can change the delay before the laser comes out. Those are two things I could fix. Alien sweep delay, so yeah, let's make those into variables too. In fact, let's just do it here. Em sweep delay. Sweep delay, and by default set it to that. And the other thing is the sweep speed. I'm sure I'm doing that somewhere. Shoot cooldowns using the usual thing. Sweep angle. Fire time times room speed. That's just for the angle. I think that's okay. Alien in laser delay. Yeah, that's not something I'd really want to change. That's before the laser shuts off. Accelerator. Here we go. There's a lot in here. In acceleration, max acceleration. So right now the laser, as you can see, it starts off slow, it picks up speed, gets faster, reaches a max, and then slows down again, just to make it easier for the player to kind of anticipate what it's going to do. Let's see, acceleration, max acceleration. So I guess the thing I could change is the acceleration, alien sweep acceleration. That's the thing to change. And I think I have to do that in a few places. 2 to be precise. Because there's the variant where it's going this way, and then there's the variant where it's going this way. So there's 2 directions of acceleration. Em sweep acceleration. Okay, there we go. And let's make the default that. So I have sweep delay and sweep acceleration. I need to modify those inside of Rim Manager. Sweep delay, sweep acceleration. Try to keep those in my failing brain. Alien em sweep delay. Alien em sweep acceleration. Acceleration, the faster it is, the harder it is to dodge, so that should be times like 1.1 1.15 or 1.2, 1.15. Sweep delay, probably the shorter that is, the more difficult it is, so let's do that. Okay. And that should cover it. Let's make sure that the ghosts are faster. What? Let's see, EM speed. Oh yeah, the scorpions also use EM speed as well. So I do need to do that. Make sure the scorpions are getting faster just like the ghosts. And then I should be covered. Yep. Scorpion. And scorpion again. Ever I write that, I always want to say get over here. But I'll try not to say it. It's so tempting. And the Japanese name for me, Panda Bits. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you for the Japanese version of that too. That is awesome. Yeah, Big Nose McGillicuddy in Japanese, which wouldn't look at a place in the JRPG. That actually does feel like it would be like a Dragon Quest enemy, probably a hidden one. So I know these enemies are working okay, so I'll skip this. The ghosts should get faster over time. At least this ghost should get faster over time. The other ones probably won't, so let's turn on invincibility and get rid of them so I can keep track of this. Doesn't look like the big guy's getting faster. Hard to tell. I don't think he's faster, though. I guess I should have kept some enemies around, so let's try and compare them. Just have to keep track of which ghost is which. Let's do that again. Just have to remember this ghost is the one that's going to get faster. Theoretically. But that's not the case, so I think EM speed's being modified somewhere else inside of Ghost. Let's take a look. EM calm, EM... Yeah, there we go. That's why. Because EM speed is being modified every step. So theoretically, multiplying the base speed should have made it go faster. Theoretically, EM base speed. Because I was multiplying EM base speed. Now why would that be the case? Yeah, because I'm kind of overdoing it, because I don't really need to modify EM speed, because EM speed just gets overwritten every step anyway. But this EM base speed, which I have been overwriting, should have been making the ghost faster anyway. So I guess it's time for a debug message here. Ghost speed string EM speed. Let's show the final result. And I'll have to remember to undo that whole EM speed thing. And let's see, I should get a whole bunch of debugging messages when ghosts start showing up. So it's 0.38, like the gun. The ghost is getting slower. No, 0.38, 0.36. Wow, okay, well that's kind of minuscule. Let's see if they get faster. Some of them are slightly faster, but it's by such a minor amount that it's not making a difference. So it could just be the ghosts are so slow that a percentage change doesn't really make that much of a difference. That could be it. Let me undo that one thing inside of here. And because I know scorpions work the same as ghosts, I can get rid of it for scorpion too. Yeah, I am modifying base speed times 1.2. Yeah, 20% of whatever its speed is just not enough, maybe. Let's just check again. Make sure that my updating EM speed wasn't causing any weirdness. It should theoretically be the same because it was getting overridden. I keep doing that. I don't want to do that, I just want to move it up. I wish I could... Any of you GameMaker pros out there, do you know how to automatically get this window to spawn in the place you want it to? That is a good question, because I would love to do that. Because for you guys, I want to have it up so that you can see it, but it always starts in the middle, so there's always that bottom part getting cut off. Invincibility on. So ghost speed 0.38, 0.30. Gets slower. 1.2 gets slower. That is the weirdest thing ever. Alright, what is going on here? Let's take a look at that ghost. So move speed times 0.75 is the first thing. Let's do some math on move speed. 0.5 to make sure these calculations are right. So the first thing it does is 0.5 times 0.75, which is 375. 0.38, I think, is what it was showing me. Yes, yes. Okay, because it's rounding for me. I don't need to save the changes to the macros. So that's the first thing it does. Then, inside of the step, it overrides that by saying its EM speed equals, where is it? Just base speed. So EM speed is getting set to this, okay. And then later, when I modify this from Room Manager, I'm multiplying it by 1.2 times 1.2. Should be going up. Should be going up. Okay, well that's a bug. Yeah, it should be going to 0.45 and then in step 2 going to 0.54. But for some reason, ghost speed is not doing that. Interesting. Interesting, interesting, interesting. I'm assuming the scorpions are going to be the same way. Is it something I'm doing in here? EM speed equals that. Ghost angry speed. Let me just double check that. I'm sure that's higher than 1. Otherwise the ghost would get slower when it's angry. Yeah, that's 1.5. EM speed equals EM base speed. It doesn't look like there's any other place where I'm modifying speed. Just to be on the safe side, let's check out base speed here. Might be some weirdness going on. .38, 0.3. Yeah, it's going down. Yeah, it's not good. I'll look into that later. It's obviously a bug. Let me check the alien thing. It could just be floating point weirdness, or maybe I'm just not seeing something. If any of you guys do know what it is, sing out, because I'm not entirely clear on why that's happening. It seems to work for snowmen, okay? It's just the ghost. Maybe because of that angry state. Oops. I need invincibility on or I'm going to get killed real quick. Okay, the alien's getting faster. The one on the right there. Kind of hard to test the speed game on that one because he killed someone real quick. Let's try to get rid of some of these aliens. There's my fast one. I don't want him to die. He's my test alien. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell if he is getting faster. I'm going to have to use debug code on all of these guys to test. And yeah, I ran out on my time limit there, so 60 seconds. It's just going to be one of those things where I have to check the debug stuff. And Pandabits did try to chime in. No idea on what's going on. One guess is that the base speed goes down for a moment because it pauses for a frame or something to figure out where to go next, which drops average speed somewhere behind the scenes. Yeah, that could be the case. Yeah, it could be a timing thing. Have to look it up. And then I'm going to have to throw a bunch of debug messages in for the aliens, but let's make that a bug here. 0.5. Obviously, since it's not coming to me, it's probably going to be a little bit more tricky. Isn't going up with the time crunch. It's going down, which is weird. So that's something I'll have to look into. Let's put that at the top of my list over here to make sure I do it before I get anything going. And one thing I guess I should do, because it's making it really hard to debug this, is to make sure that the time crunch only starts happening when all of the enemies have appeared. I think I will make that the last task for today because it's a pretty important task. And nothing I'm doing makes any sense until that happens. So, let's see. Enemy spawn array. I think all that stuff's going on in here. So the last enemy that gets spawned is this one. So, enemy count. So what I have to do is, let's see, enemy count's equal to the array height minus 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 1. Just have to figure out when the last one is showing up. This is going to be inside of Room Manager. Step. So if kill count is equal to enemy count, so I probably need to keep track of spawn count, just to know when all the enemies are out there. So when spawn count is equal to the total number of enemies that should be there, then start the timer. So I do need a spawn count. Set the current. Oh, actually, RM current enemy. I do already have this. So enemy count is equal to 0. I do have an enemy count variable. Okay. If I'm working with that, see, it's been a long time since I've worked with the room manager in enemy counting and stuff, so I kind of forget what I already have been doing. But enemy count is equal to a spawn count. Let's just see. Let's throw a debug message in here. Enemy count. And what is it? What's the other one? Okay, enemy count's the total count. And the other one is current enemy. Alright, let's check those two. See if I can use the variables I already have before making new ones. Because the more variables I have, the harder it gets to debug everything else. And Bone Crusher mentioned, would it be better to use a grid instead of an array? Let's take a look. DS grid. Yeah, I'm not sure about the efficiency of a grid versus a two-dimensional array. Let's see, the type of structure. And yeah, they have to be destroyed just like anything else, like a DS list or everything else. It does give you more options than working with an array. That's good. Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't actually mention whether this is more efficient within GameMaker than a two-dimensional array. It just says a DS grid is basically a type of two-dimensional array. If you know, Bone Crusher, that DS grid is more efficient than a two-dimensional array inside of GameMaker, definitely let me know, because I could make that switch. In terms of what they do the exact same thing, so that's not a problem. Wouldn't be that much of a hassle. And Pandabits mentions, I could think of some truly bizarre reasons for why ghosts would have weird speeds, but they would be based on your doing some particularly weird things with the setting of speed variables. Well, go ahead and fire out those weird things that you're thinking of. It could be one of those weird things, because it has to be a weird thing, because weird things are happening, right? So enemy count, current count. Let's see if I can use these variables to decide when to start that timer. It'd be nice if I can. Let's go with Ghost. It's easy. Whoop. I keep doing that. It's hard to get the window back when I do that, so I'm just going to start over. Just want to click once. Okay. So enemy count's 4, current enemies 2, 3, 4, which is all right. Oh, actually, that's actually a good thing. Current enemy goes up to 1 past the enemy count. That I can use. That I can use. It's hard to see over here, but that's why I'm always using current enemy -1 and all these different calculations and stuff. But the good thing is that after I spawn an enemy, even if it's the last enemy, say in this case it's the 4th enemy, once I finish spawning that, I go to 5. The good thing about that is, the reason I was kind of worried was because, yeah, enemy count total 4. When I get to enemy count 4, yeah, that's fine, they're equal, but the 4th enemy hasn't actually spawned yet because there's a delay. So if I just waited to test for those things being equal, I'd end up with just one enemy that wasn't getting affected by the timer, and that would have been weird. But because I am putting current enemy to 1 past the enemy count, once that enemy gets spawned, that's what I check for. If the enemy count's 4, I check for 4 plus 1 in terms of current enemy, and that's when I should start the timer. Awesome. Good thing I used those debug messages, so now I can get away with not having to do extra variables, which is awesome. And I say awesome a lot, as you know. I don't know why I do that. Guess things are awesome. So let's see, what should I do? Right now, I am setting the timer to +1 in here, but what I could do is do a quick check. So if RM current enemy is greater than RM enemy count, was it? Let me take a look. RM enemy count, yes, okay. So if RM current enemy is greater than RM enemy count, then you can increment the timer, otherwise it stays at 0. And in fact, I could throw this inside of the if as well, because time-elapse events shouldn't occur unless the timer's actually working, so that's fine. Let's see how that works. And I think Bone Crusher got back to me on grids. Okay, so the Bone Crusher would say grids are a tad bit better, at least after reading this and from personal experience. So let me just check this really quick, just to make sure it's working. Actually, this is a bad stage to test it. Let's do this one, because I still have those ghost debug messages there. So theoretically, if I can survive long enough, what should happen is the timer should only start after the last scorpion comes out, and I think there were 4 of them. 5, okay, 5 of them. Yes, it's working. After 5 seconds after the last scorpion spawns, the timer starts. They get faster. Great. Good to see. So that is working. Let me check the link that Bone Crusher sent so that I can learn a little bit more about DS grids here. Array versus DS grid performance comparison. Perfect. Today I discovered another no thing about GML. Arrays can't be passed by reference nor returned from a script call. Yeah, that's true. Would really be able to do this. Okay, here we go. GMC member mentions DS grid is much faster and functional than arrays. Yeah, definitely more functional because there's all those functions listed that you can work with them. You have more control. And yeah, you do have to worry about creation and destruction, so that's something I would have to worry about. But no, not true. All right, well, I guess I'll read more of the thread. Using a DS grid can be faster than using an array. Doing the same way because, yeah, okay. But if all you need to do is simple data storage and lookup, arrays are actually a bit faster. But here we go, edit. So there's a little story going on here. Good thing you read to the end. It's all right. It sounds like grids are faster in GM Studio. So this person did do a little research. Okay. Well, either way, they are more functional. I'm not doing a very complicated program, so squeezing off, a few extra calculations won't make a big difference. But they are more functional, so it sounds like a good idea to use them. So thank you, Bone Crusher. Maybe before next week, I'll convert those 2-dimensional arrays to grids. Appreciate that. And I think there's some more messages. So PandaBits mentions set ghost aggro true even if the ghost isn't present. Then when the ghost spawns, it has an association with a value. When you write over them, the ghost is still trying to set to version 1, not the modified v2, so the speed oscillates or something, relies on you forcibly writing the aggro states of all ghosts, and then GM trying to write them back. Wouldn't explain the speed decreasing, though, just changing it slightly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could be right about that. It could be because it's trying to set things back down. Doesn't look like it from the script, but that could be the case. After making that change of waiting for every enemy to show up, let me see if the ghosts are different. So yeah, you've got the 0.38, that's fine. And I think there were 5 ghosts as well. Keep my player alive here. No, same thing's happening. Their speed is going down. Okay, well, it's a bug I have to look into. But I'll keep this open so I can look into grids a little more. But the timer only starts after all of the enemies have appeared. That is done. So now there's not that weirdness of some enemies being faster than others. Modify points based on time, that's done. Because that got modified with this. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, none of the visual things did happen. And actually, stop time for tutorial. I don't have to do that because I already did the start timer after all the enemies have appeared, so that's handled. So none of the visual things happened today, so you can't really tell that time is changing, except by the fact that enemy behaviors are changing in those debug messages. So that's going to be for next week, I think. Let me go over here and add a list. So episode 40. Wow, up to 40. 40 weeks. Nice. The big 40. Gonna have a midlife crisis here. Let's see. Well, I don't have an episode title yet. I always think about that when I do the animation, because I always try to do the episode titles to kind of match what I'm doing here and what's going on in the animated skit and kind of blend them, which is why I don't decide a title this quick. Plus, my brain's fried by the time this broadcast is done, so I probably wouldn't come up with very clever titles anyway. So let's move these visual things over here, because I need to do all those. I might do a couple of them before next week just to get them ready. Try a few things out. Obviously, the most important thing is that the enemy visuals change when the time crunch starts. Otherwise, you don't know why the enemies are getting faster. So that's episode 40. And let's move all these done tasks over here. So the first thing I did today to wrap up was to have a counter that keeps track of time. That was the easy thing. That's why I did it first. The second easiest thing was to actually have it give me a game over when it reached the time limit, which was fine. That worked fine. Modifying the enemies based on time. Got that working. And with that came modifying their point values. That's fine. Do have that bug with the ghosts, though, so I have to worry about that. And stopping time for the tutorial. That happened with this task, which was wait until all of the enemies have appeared before counting down. So you could imagine if the sun is up there, it stays at high noon until the last enemy shows up, and then it starts dipping down. So that was episode 39, calling it a day. Okay. And let me catch up to the chat before I wrap up here. I demand a cheap rooster. Pandavits. I demand a cheap rooster sound clip for a timeout noise. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. Even the rooster thing, like having maybe, just, a thought. When the level first starts, before the first enemy appears, it would actually be kind of cool to have the sun kind of pop up to high noon, and that indicates the enemies are going to start flooding out. Having kind of a rooster call when it starts might actually be a good idea. Have a little cock-a-doodle-doo when the sun pops up. And Sirius mentions, Blue, you got to check out this web series. It's based on Wednesday Addams. Okay. Let me just look at that link here. Oh, awesome. The Addams Family. Based on Wednesday Addams. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, I've got my viewing material for when the feed stops, but that was episode 39, calling it a day. Got the system stuff done, but I do need to get the visual stuff done. There's a lot to do, as expected. Let's debug things, modify pitch, get glows around the people, visualizations, all that sort of stuff. But hopefully I can get it done next episode. I might do a little bit of preparation work to get that working, and of course I'll look into the ghosts before next episode. So Adult Wednesday Addams. All right, I've got my show. I'm going to change everything over to grids, as NeoZoom mentioned. And Panda Bits, just in case you don't show up in a couple of weeks for this feed. I think, let's see, get it down here. Crazy Challenge Mode Puzzle Rooms. You voted for this. It was in the reach tasks down here. But, you commented on the video back in the day, and you did vote for it here, so I think I do want to implement it. I think I can do it. It probably won't take actually 6 hours, because I've been kind of doing a few things to get enemies to play nice with each other. So I could theoretically have different enemies in the same room and have it work. I don't think it'll be that difficult to get doing, but because you did vote for it, I do want to get it done, just so you can see the results. So that is in there. I just wanted to mention that because you are here now. But let me wrap up. So I'll jump off the desktop as I always do and get my times up here so I can remember which times they are. Daylight savings time screws me up. But thank you for watching our game development show. Didn't get a whole lot done, but did get the system stuff done in place. You can catch past episodes in this one over at www.youtube.com, Blue Tengu Studio. That's all one word. If you're watching this later on YouTube, come drop by the live show we do every week here on Twitch TV Blue Tengu. The times are, if you're in the Americas, it's Fridays from 4 to 6 Pacific, 5 to 7 Mountain, 6 to 8 Central, 7 to 9 Eastern. If you're in the UK, it starts at 11 p.m. Friday night and goes to 1 a.m. Saturday morning. You guys might have a daylight savings time shift coming soon. Everyone starts at different, so yeah, be a little careful. If you want to look it up and be on the safe side, what you can do is Japan doesn't have daylight savings time, and we do it 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday morning in Japan. There's no daylight savings time, so if you look up 8 a.m. Japan and check that against your time, you should be safe. If you're in Australia, it should start anywhere from 8 to 10 depending on where you live, and if you're in New Zealand, it should start 11. Obviously, if you're in Australia or New Zealand, you're close to Japan, which means you're all Saturday. If you're in the Americas or the UK, all those times were for Friday, because I'm living in the future. We do always announce what we're doing through Twitter, though, so if you follow Tengu, you always get, 15 minutes until the show starts kind of announcements. And I always announce when episodes go up. So follow us on Twitch or YouTube. I do appreciate it when you guys follow me on Twitch or YouTube. It makes my day. And of course, it makes my day when you send emails and everything else too. It's nice to interact with you guys, even between shows. And of course, you can see what we're up to anytime over at bluetengu.com. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.